What you are about to experience is out of this world. Politics, history, and of course, a lot of entertainment. It's time to rock it with the Docket. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Kyle Dockery with the Dockery Docket. We are here with another exciting episode of the Dockery Docket. I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you are excited to be here as well. So many of you probably already know that I'm a person that really likes to talk about politics. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? Sometimes, however, there are things that come up that are bigger than politics. All of their opinions, all of their different labels seem so small when you strip the politics away from that person and realize who they truly are. A person. This week, in a shocking twist, Joe Biden was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And the news honestly shocked me and made me extremely sad. Now, I will admit, I will be honest, I did not like Joe Biden as a president of the United States. But that shouldn't take away from the fact of the matter that he is a person. Joe Biden is a father. He's a grandpa. He's a husband and a friend to many different people. And I honestly tried to put this situation in my own shoes. What if someone called me and told me that my grandpa had cancer? I would be devastated. And then I go online and see people talking about how this person deserved it. This person needed this to happen to them because they were such a terrible person. Why would someone say that? That is absolutely stupid. No one, I believe, even if I disagree with their politics 100%, deserves anything like this at all. So while I am hoping and praying for Joe Biden, we have to realize that the facts are facts. And it seems to me, if we are being honest with each other, that someone dropped the ball when it came to Joe Biden and this diagnosis of cancer. As this isn't an early stage of cancer. As according to the office of Joe Biden, he was diagnosed with an aggressive form characterized by a Gleason score of 9, which has metastasized to the bone. Now, cancer doesn't just appear like this. Everyone knows this. It comes in different stages. There's stage 1, stage 2. The bigger the number gets, the worse that it is. And it takes years for cancer to reach the bone. And doing a quick Google search on different prostate cancers, you can see that it takes more than 7 or 8 years for prostate cancer to develop into the bones. So if we are to do a quick math question, 2025 minus 8, and that gets us to 2017. That's 3 years before Joe Biden decided to run for president and win the presidential election. And this goes along with what an oncologist said recently named Zeke Emanuel, as he claimed on Morning Joe, Joe Biden did not develop prostate cancer in the last 100 to 200 days. He had it while he was president, Emanuel insisted. He continued by saying he probably had it at the start of his presidency in 2021. Yes, I don't think there's any disagreement about that. And this lines up with the 8 years that I was talking about for the cancer to grow and get to the bones and get to this level. Other doctors have also come out and claimed that this is very confusing and this is very weird. As Dr. Howard Foreman wrote on X, it is inconceivable that this was not being followed before he left the presidency. Gleason grade 9 would have had an elevated PSA level for some time before this diagnosis. And he must have had a PSI test numerative times before. This is odd. He added, I wish him well and hope he has an opportunity to maximize his quality of life. So what this guy is saying is, if Joe Biden got a blood test, more than likely the doctors would have seen that something was wrong. They might have seen elevated white blood cells. They might have seen other things in the blood test to say, hey, something is wrong with him and we got to find out what it is. But apparently that didn't happen. That's strange. Another doctor named Stephen Qua also went on X and claimed the PSA blood test shows the rate of cancer cell growth. That's what I just said. For even with the most aggressive form, it is a 5 to 7 year journey without treatment before it becomes metastatic. He said, meaning it would be malpractice for this patient to show up and be first diagnosed with metastatic disease in disease in May of 2025. He continued, "It is highly likely he was carrying a diagnosis of prostate cancer throughout his White House tenure, and the American people were uninformed." And I mean, all of this just baffles me, and it leads me to have so many different questions. How did this happen? When did this happen? Who knew about this happening? And who dropped the ball when it came to Joe Biden and his diagnosis of cancer? And well, I actually have some theories that could sort of answer some of these different questions that you and I both have. As back in the 1920s, Franklin Roosevelt was diagnosed with polio, and as he got older, he started to become paralyzed in his legs. This meant that he couldn't walk without his son or braces to help him up. There's even a crazy video of his son and him walking. He has his son's arm and he's walking like a normal person, but in reality, he couldn't even feel his legs. Roosevelt hid this from the public for a very long time. And he also kept his declining health a secret in the 1944 election as well. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that we know that Joe Biden has had some secrets, especially when it comes to his health. As since he was president of the United States, many people were concerned about his cognitive abilities. And the sad thing is that all of this was swept under the rug by the mainstream media, as they came out and started supporting Joe Biden, claiming, "Oh, he just has a stutter, it's no big deal, he has a perfect bill of health, no one worry about him, he's 80-something years old, and he can't remember anything, but he's fine. He's okay." Then, of course, the infamous debate with Donald Trump came up, and all of a sudden the left was like, wait a minute, holy cow, why didn't anyone tell us that Joe Biden's mentally not there? This was one of the biggest cover-ups in American history, and the media just lied right through it. They believed the Biden administration 100% of the time. And now my question is simply this: could the media have known about this cancer diagnosis and have done the same thing about Joe Biden's cognitive decline, sort of ignoring it, pushing it off to the side, and saying that Joe Biden didn't have any problems at all when they knew that something was terribly wrong? My theory is that Joe Biden got a physical when he was president of the United States. Of course he did. Every single president does every year. But for this different evaluation, the doctors knew that he had prostate cancer and they told Joe Biden that he has it. But because this news was so big and so grave, Biden and his doctors decided not to release this to the public. And this makes sense because if you tell the American people that you have cancer, the leader of the free world has cancer, then people start to get concerned and ask different questions. How long does Joe Biden have to live? How long will he be out of office if he has to get treated? Will we be weaker on the world stage when our president is incapacitated because he has cancer? So now remember, this is just a theory. This is just an idea. This isn't actually what happened. But this is how I believe the story would go down. Joe Biden got a physical. The doctors knew about the cancer. They told him it's not a big deal. You know, just don't worry about it and we'll check it. We'll keep on looking at it over and over and you'll be fine. They continued to do different physicals and kept an eye on it until it grew too much and Joe Biden couldn't keep it a secret anymore, which is right now. Now, this theory may be possible, but there is a reason that I believe that this theory also has some holes in it. And the biggest reason that this theory falls apart is because if the doctors were moderating this different cancer and seeing it grow and grow and grow, why wouldn't they recommend Joe Biden get treated for this cancer to maybe survive it, maybe get rid of it? And I feel like if Joe Biden was the president and he came out to the American people and was like, listen, I have this problem, what we're going to do is we're going to treat it, we're going to beat it, and we're going to be better and stronger than ever, but while I'm gone, Kamala Harris will be president, the American people would definitely be concerned, but I believe that they would wish him well and hope that the president of the United States would live. And I mean, this has happened in the past. Ronald Reagan was shot and George Bush took over as president for a little while, and when Reagan came back, people loved him and adored him for it. Could you imagine if Joe Biden beat cancer and came back as president? I believe he would be stronger than ever before. But because they didn't do any tests, because they didn't actually try and treat this cancer, it means that the Roosevelt theory is bunk. And the nail in the coffin for this theory was Joe Biden deciding that he wanted to run for president in 2024. If Joe Biden knew he had cancer, then more than likely he wouldn't have decided to run for president in 2024, and he would have gladly handed the reins over to Kamala Harris right away. But instead, they had to go through a whole cycle and a bunch of different debates before he actually dropped out of the presidential election. And because he acted like he was healthy the whole time, it leads me to another another theory that I like to call political malpractice, which is simply that the White House doctors knew that Joe Biden had prostate cancer, but they didn't tell him because it would hurt Joe Biden politically. Now, White House doctors aren't supposed to have different political opinions. They have treated both Democrats and Republicans. They're supposed to look at the patient and say, this is what's wrong with him, this is what's good with him, and all that. However, news like this, a president having cancer, would be detrimental to that person running for office. So they covered it up and told everyone that Joe Biden was fine. He has a clean bill of health. No one needs to worry about Joe Biden. Now, I will tell you right now, if this theory is true, then someone needs to be fired and probably go to jail for malpractice and the death of Joe Biden if he succumbs to this cancer. Because if we are talking about White House doctors, we're not just talking about Joe Biden, we're talking about presidents in the future as well. What if Donald Trump actually has heart disease and the American people don't know about it because these different doctors are trying to cover it up? What if a future president has a certain problem and they decide to cover it up because they are so scared of the political ramifications that could happen with a scandal like cancer or another debilitating disease? Or they want the president to win another term, and having a disease that could cause a person to die doesn't do really good for poll numbers. So they decide to hide it. They decide to shove it under the rug and not talk about it. And I believe that all of this needs to be looked into right away. We need to know when this happened, if people knew beforehand, and if we can even trust the White House doctors that we have right now. And it's not just because of Donald Trump and his health, but it's because of future presidents as well. In all honesty, I wish I could say that this cancer just came out of nowhere and no one was expecting it. But this cancer is too advanced to have just been found out right now. Something smells very fishy about this whole situation, and I believe that the news moves fast enough that more than likely we will find out very soon what happened or who knew or if someone dropped the ball. And I know that one day we will get to the bottom of this. And with that, I just want to thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Dockery Docket. And until next time, like my mom always says, be good, be kind, be loving, goodbye.